Ask that you continue to uphold them as they move and meander through this life, and that they make a name for themselves, but more importantly, that they expose and educate the people about a process that we need to take full advantage of. And these and other blessings we ask in Jesus' name we say, amen. Amen. And let me just welcome you to the best facility in the whole state of Alabama, and not in the southeast. It's a great facility. But we got a great mayor, and Mayor Randall Wooford. Can we give him a hand? His absence. And I would ask that you all come back in about another month or so and get you a cup of coffee from Starbucks, because Starbucks will be open very soon. And so, and then a hotel, and maybe in the summer you come back and get you a hotel room and then take in some of the activities around the Crossplex. But we're very excited. I have my colleagues here tonight, Councilor John Hilliard and Councilor Sheila Tyson. Won't you all stand? These are my colleagues. If I didn't have councilors who also agreed that we needed to do something to transform this community. And so it's a work of the collective. And so we say thank you, you're welcome to District 8, and I hope that we leave here tonight more empowered than when we came. God bless you.
Thank you, Councilor. And for the welcome, I'm going to ask my friend also who's on the City Council, as he just introduced, Councilman John Hilliard of District 9.
Good evening. It is just awesome to see so many great and intelligent people come together to educate, to motivate, to innovate. Many of you I've known over the years. You are leaders, you're pushing forward, you're engaging in a process that will change history. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you on behalf of my colleagues and myself and the great gentlemen. I'm just so proud of you all for stepping forward to pull such a great event together. God be blessed. Be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Now what I want to do is bring up a great friend of mine. The whole purpose of this was voter education. He's a candidate for district attorney. He's my friend. One of the few guys, I stand there, I stand with him, I stand beside him. I know what he means. He's a hometown guy, and he has the heart for the city. So I asked him to come up and give us the purpose of voter education, and he agreed to do it. So I want to bring up, and I won't say assistant district attorney because we speak it, district attorney.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. You know, especially people on the front row, if you have a chance to stand here and look back at the crowd in this room and the diversity and the amount of people who are here, this is unbelievable. This is a testament to Lonnie and James. It's a testament. Now, to the council people that are here, and the governor candidates, the current elected officials, current judges, and all the other candidates, welcome. You know, voting is important. And when you look up here at me right now, I'm going to tell you, it's very important to me. Because, and I'm just going to be frank about it, if I can. Has anyone here ever been denied something just because it had nothing to do with your ability, had nothing to do with the work you perform, had nothing to do with the local constituency who all, in a bipartisan way, said that person is the man for the job. But because of party affiliation, you were denied. If you haven't, it's not a great feeling. It's not a great feeling. There's something that was enacted, and we all know about it, called the Voter Disqualification Act. And I'm sure we have some lawyers here who know about that. And it's important that we spread the word about it. it's important that we hold small, even, they don't have to be big clinics, just small clinics. Because it defines who can vote finally and who can't. And what I mean by that, it defines what moral turpitude really is. Historically, it was only at the unfettered discretion of your local registrars to determine whether you qualify or not. There was never anything in black and white that said this crime is a crime of moral turpitude, this crime isn't. But the Voter Disqualification Act finally defines it. A lot of people who had drug convictions who couldn't vote, they were told they couldn't vote because they were voting in a certain precinct. Well, their friend had that same conviction, and that person could vote because they're voting in another precinct, and this registrar was not as conservative as the other. But now it defines it. Drug cases, they can vote. Distribution cases, they can vote. Even burglary third cases, they can vote. Just because you have a felony now doesn't necessarily mean you cannot vote. So we need to educate people on that. I think this is our time, and the momentum we have, this is huge. Please think in those terms. I did a clinic, and I have a PowerPoint presentation that you don't have to do the work. It's already done. It lays out every crime that you have committed, but you are still eligible to vote. And it also lays out the ones that you have committed that you're not necessarily eligible now, but if you do certain paperwork, you can be eligible. So it's important that we not only meet like this amongst each other, but we also meet and educate the people who want to be part of the process, who are afraid, who may be embarrassed, but they have that right, and we just haven't given them the tools and the information that they need to exercise that right. We need to do that. It's important. It's very important. Now, I'm eager to see what the governor candidates have to say, and I pretty much know them all. They're all great people. So, again, I think it's just important that we know about that Voter Disqualification Act, we educate ourselves about it, and we educate others about it. It's very important. Let's not sit on our morals and think that what just happened will happen again. We have other work to do, so please, together, let's do that work. And again, thank you for being here. This is going to be a wonderful evening, and I will be remiss if I don't say this, that of course I'm Danny Carr, and I am running for DA for Jefferson County, so
yes, he is Danny Carr, and he is running for district attorney. We also have candidates, as we proceed, we also have candidates that are running here and statewide. And a lot of them decided to help us out. She came in late. Come on. I got to let Mama Scales come up here and talk. She's city council. You know, we let all our councilors talk. Come on, Mama Scales. Come on. I got her. Yeah. But see, we're just going to put her on the candidate side, but okay.
Good evening, everybody. Are you fired up? You ready to go? We can't be town in that week now talking about June the 5th, right? You fired up? You ready to go? The Democrats can take it if you get out the vote. Anybody that says what's happening June 5th, they need to circle the date, mark their calendar, and you need to be taking folks to the polls. Now, I love Danny Carr because for some reason we always end up with the same colors. But let me do say this. I am running for Jefferson County Commission District 1. I am the current city council member for District 1, and I'm waiting on this opportunity because there's never been a woman to serve for District 1. So for those of you that know me as the tiger that I am going to be a lioness in this race. And that means that I want all of these great men to be so strong and just manhandle me as I take the folks to the polls on June the 5th. But I am excited. I'm very happy that we have James and Lonnie really trying to educate the populace, because I'm going to tell you something. That's the only way that you're going to get people fired up about voting. They have to know that their vote is their voice. When you vote, you have hope. And hopeless people do what hopeless people do when they don't know they have a voice. So you don't have to play all the little games that we do. There's a bigger, much bigger picture that's going on, because I'm telling you, not only in Jefferson County, but in the state of Alabama, things can be different if we do it differently. So this is not the time where we fight one another. We can disagree after November 6th, okay? But in the meantime, I think that we have people on all levels. I think we have some very qualified people, and I can tell you, on behalf of the city of Birmingham, I'm just happy to be here tonight. I am fired up, and anything that's dead need to be buried. So all of y'all Democrats that's looking sad tonight, y'all better wake up, because we got to get fired up, isn't that right? Thank you all for having me, and you're doing a superb job. I can't wait to see how this night and this evening rolls out, and this is courtesy of Danny Cobb and Sister Regina Hope. Thank you.
It really is. It really is. I'm going to go ahead and bring up the other council, but then we're going to get to some more candidates that are here, especially Hebo. I got to talk about my friend, but I'll tell you about him shortly. Councilor Sheila Tyson. She's also a candidate for District 2 County Commission.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. You know, I almost didn't make it because I had surgery on the 1st. But my doctor told me it was fine for me to come out. He said, it's don't stay all day long. Come out. But this is my second time running for this position. When I had just got on the council in 2014, the need was so great that we get someone in this position to actually speak up, not only for poor people, but for Democrats. Because we were getting votes supposed to be from a Democratic candidate with the thoughts of poor people, but we was getting votes from a Republican with the thoughts of a Republican person. So I had to make a tough decision. Will you put yourself out there to try to protect the citizens in your district, or will you continue to talk and not do nothing but complain? But I have been fighting and working against the county with the water rates since '99. And I'll never forget, my mom, I was little, and we used to go out and vote when I was 10. I was to do voters registration. They was running sewer lines coming off of Green Springs. You remember Iowa? And the coalition, they was all a part of the coalition. They said, these ain't no way in the world these folks love us so much that they are worried about the sanitary conditions of our community. Running these sewer lines only in the black neighborhood is going to come back and bite us in the butt. And that's exactly what it's doing now. We're in $14.8 billion worth of debt with the county sewer. It's not even enough people in the state of Alabama to pay this debt off in 30 years. They're going to have to refinance in 2023. Now, who can sit on a commission, a council, or anything else and have a vote that you're supposed to be refinancing a $3.8 billion debt, and you come out with a $14.8 billion, and then nobody said nothing? I was part of the lawsuit that filed. I put myself out there. Councilman Hart, Councilman Skelton, y'all here. We had put ourselves out there against this. You closed down the county hospital. I didn't close down the county hospital. When you voted to sell them beds, it closed Cooper Green. Our 0.5% tax was for a hospital, not for a clinic that could not treat the people in my neighborhood if they were sick. You turn around, you sold the beds in the county nursing home. You know why? Now we got all of these houses popping up in the neighborhood that's supposed to be helping senior citizens. What they doing? Starving them to death, not feeding them. Because we have no county nursing home. That's what we get when you sell the beds to Energy Care. So you was either going to get in the game, try to protect your citizens, or you was going to sit back and complain. I rolled my sleeves up. They said I didn't have enough experience the first time, but I did. Because I had been fighting and working with Sheila Smoot. I already knew the game. I got 4 years, 5 years under my belt. Been working in this since I was 10 years old, and I'm ready. I'm going to be a player in this election. I'm going to protect citizens in District 6, County Commission District 2, and Jefferson County. I'm not a very, very type of person. I'm not that type that just talk all the time. But ain't nobody gonna outwork me. I can guarantee you. I know the issues. I'm gonna tell the issues, and I'm gonna make sure y'all informed. I can open the books. I can count. And I can tell you everything what's going on in Jefferson County. And that's what we're not getting now. So on June the 5th, y'all tell everybody, we need people to help us volunteer on our campaign. This is for y'all parents. We are fighting for your parents. This debt will not be paid off if you have a baby now. This debt will not be paid off when this child goes to college when she's 18. We are fighting not for our future, we're fighting for our children and grandchildren's future when we are running for this election now. In 2020 is going to be the census, the redistricting. They already screwed us on this redistricting before already. We just want a lawsuit on that. They get ready to screw us again if y'all turn around and let these people put the same folks back in here again. So on June 5th, y'all get out and make a difference.
I know my sister, she'll take your program from you at any given second. No, I love my baby though. I love her. I promise. She'll take it. Now, what we're going to do now is we have candidates that are running for office statewide, and we also have candidates that are running for office here locally. And each one that we are about to bring up to you now actually sponsored and assisted us in this effort. They actually reached out to us. They believed so much in what we were doing. And I just want to tell you guys, I appreciate you guys so much for that. Because, you know, us new guys coming out of the gate, rarely do people believe in you. But look at what God did. So I just want to thank y'all for that. But my first guest speaker coming up is Mr. Chris Christie, and he's running for Attorney General.
Thank you, Lonnie, and thank you, James. I want to reassure y'all, my name is Chris Christie. I am the original Chris Christie. I'm positive, because I was born 3 years before the other one. I'd like to say a few words about who I am, because this is my first time to run for public office, and then I want to talk some about what I plan to do. I was born and raised here in Birmingham. I went off to school. I went to Duke. While I was at Duke, I met my wife, Donna Christie, who's here with me tonight. We've been married 33 years. When I graduated in 1985 from law school, my wife and I joined the Peace Corps. We served for 2 years in Cameroon, West Africa. She was working with the handicapped there, and I was teaching at the University of Yaoundé School of Law. When I came back, I started with the law firm that I was with for 30 years. And among the things that I did, I litigated cases representing pension plans and healthcare providers. But probably most important in terms of what was important to me, I was chair of my law firm's pro bono committee for 20 years. And we represented a lot of people with a lot of problems, people who needed help and couldn't afford legal services. I left my law firm. I had a job I loved. I had a job that I felt blessed to have because I was able to support my family and do things that were important to me. But January 1st, 2018, I left that law firm because I am running for Alabama Attorney General. I feel like I've got to cover all 67 states. Now, what's important to me? Public corruption, government corruption. That's the biggest problem in Alabama right now. You know, where does Alabama stand in terms of health care? We have the highest infant mortality rate in the nation. Diabetes, highest rate of diabetes in the nation is in Alabama. We didn't expand Medicaid. We have a lack of leadership on health care at the state level. Education, we've got some fine educational institutions, but we're last or almost last in every measure related to education. In public safety, we've got huge problems in public safety, a lot of which come out of our prisons, which our prisons are the worst in the country. If we had a football team, and that football team came in last or almost last, year after year, what would we do? Fire the coach. We would get new leadership. We would fire the head coach. We would fire the assistant coaches. And that's what we need to do in Alabama. We need new leadership. We've got some great gubernatorial candidates here. We need to make sure one of those get elected. We also got to elect other people down the ballot. We've got to get state legislators elected in Alabama. We need a blue wave. How are we going to get that blue wave? We've got to get people to register to vote. We've got to get people who can have their voting rights restored, get those rights restored. And we've got to have turnout in November 6th. Now, I've got a primary I got to win first on June 5th. And then we're all looking forward to November 6th. And with that blue wave, we'll be able to do something about the gerrymandering that has hampered our state. And we'll be able to do other things that will move Alabama forward. So I ask you to vote for Chris Christie for Alabama Attorney General. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Christie. Now we have a candidate for Jefferson County Sheriff, Mr. Heath Bohackle. This is one of the guys that took a chance on us, man, without hesitation.
Good evening. Good morning. Guys, thank y'all for this. I think that this is very important. It's a great turnout here, and a lot of issues that we all need to hear from every one of these candidates sitting here before me is going to be important to all of us. But my platform is very simple, but it's very important. It's community, service, and leadership. That's what's lacking in this county right now from a law enforcement perspective. A lot of people seem to always forget that the sheriff is the one position that voters get to elect the law enforcement position. And police chiefs, they're appointed, mayors are elected, and we all know that process. However, we're dealing with things right now in this county that are not being addressed. We just heard of the active shooter stuff down in Florida. It's a matter of time before it comes here to our state. What are we doing to prevent it? There's a lot of things that we can do from the Sheriff's Department that's not being done that needs to be done. But we've got to build that gap between the community and law enforcement. That's the biggest thing that's missing right now. The communities don't trust law enforcement, okay, for a lot of different reasons. I mean, we can sit here and talk about those all night long. But as your sheriff, I will ensure you that that's going to happen. Because you can't just sit behind a desk being a sheriff. You've got to be out in the field. You've got to be able to bridge that gap, and that's just what I'm going to do. Leadership is very important to me. I come from a family that has put in over 80 years of law enforcement with the city of Birmingham. I grew up in the city of Birmingham. I went to high school here. I went to Huffman. I attended the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and then I joined the police academy in 1996. So seeing my father, my mother, and my stepmother all go through this department, I've learned what's lacking. We have the same people, just as Mr. Christie talked about. If stuff's not happening, we would get rid of coaches. And it's the same thing here. I ask that you all pay attention to what's going to be discussed, just as I am. I ask that you all come visit our table over here. We would love to have volunteers. Our campaign's really going well. And again, I want to thank you all for coming and enjoy the evening.
Next we have, to me, it's very important, and it's amazing how people take it for granted, but judges are very important. And it is amazing how people take judge races for granted. Because those are the people that usually interact with you, people on a daily basis. So, first candidate for probate court judge place 2, Ms. Jamiria Moore.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you, James. Thank you, Lonnie, for this opportunity. I am so excited to see everybody out here. Let me just tell you who I am. I'm Jamiria Moore, and I'm running for Jefferson County Judge of Probate Place 2. A lot of people say, when I go out, what is Judge of Probate? What do you do? They say, are we on probation, or are you going to come and see us for that? No. The Judge of Probate is a very, very important position in this county. They hear wills, probation of wills, how you probate your will, estates, conservatorships, guardianships, things that deal with land matters, condemnations, landlocked properties. Of course, beautiful things such as adoptions. You record your mortgage there. You get your marriage license there. I like to say it's the true family court because it relates to your family. It is a very, very, again, important court. I am running because it touched me from a personal manner, and I've also seen it from experience as far as representing my clients in court. But there's nothing like standing in a courtroom as the person that's there to have your case heard in probate court, because it's extremely emotional. I want to let you know that I am a person that has compassion, that will listen, who understands that probate court can tear a family apart. I just want to let you know I am that person. More compassion, more fairness, and of course, more justice. Vote Jamiria Moore, June the 5th, in the primaries. I really appreciate you. Thank you again for this opportunity. They want me to have more time.
We're over here doing homework right now. Next candidate for judge is Shante Brown, which is for District Judge, Bessemer Cutoff Place 11. Give her a round of applause, please.
Thank you, Lonnie. Thank you, James, for giving me this platform. I am Shante Brown, and I'm running to become the next criminal district court judge in the Bessemer Division, Place 11. Currently, I serve as a criminal defense attorney, and instead of opening my own private practice, I made the conscious decision to be a public defender, and I take pride in that because I truly believe that justice should not depend on how much money someone makes. And I'm going to fight for you, and I'm going to work hard for you no matter who you are or where you come from. And my husband is John Brown, and he's a police officer. And a lot of people always ask, well, how are you a criminal defense attorney, but you're married to a police officer? How does that work? And my question to them is, why wouldn't it work? Why not? We have the same values. We both believe that people should be held accountable for the crimes they commit, but we also believe that their rights should be and must be upheld along the way. And serving as a criminal defense attorney, I represent hundreds of people every year. I see the commonalities that they have in the criminal justice system. I see that most of the time they're addicted to drugs. It's a lack of education. Most of them, 10th grade, 6th grade education. So how are we to send someone to prison and expect for them to get out and all of a sudden change without focusing on the underlying issues? So as a judge, I want to be able to get them into drug treatment facilities, try to get them a GED. Let's take them to vocational school right in Bessemer, which is in my division, and I will be on the drug court program of the Bessemer division. This is my passion. I love what I do. I practice 100% criminal law, which is why I'm going for a criminal seat. I'm the candidate that cared before becoming a candidate, and I will continue to care if God grants me this opportunity to become a judge. Thank you. June 5th, be down with Shante Brown.
I love that. As Ms. Davis said, did she make it? She. Ms. Keisha Davis. Did she get it? Excellent. We got Ms. Keisha Davis. She's running for District Judge, Place 9, Birmingham Division.
All right.
I'm sorry, I was running my mouth. But my name is, y'all hear me? Okay. My name is Keisha Davis. I am a judge with Birmingham Municipal Court, and I am running for District Court, Place 9. I'm running for this position because I want to be a catalyst for change in Jefferson County. And I think that starts with people who are blessed to have the opportunity to work in leadership roles. District Court Place 9 hears criminal misdemeanor cases that are appealed from my court in Birmingham Municipal Court and the surrounding municipalities. It also hears adult DHR placement cases. It hears domestic violence cases, driver's license appeals cases, just to name a few. I'm running for this position, one, because I have the experience to do so. Prior to my taking the bench for municipal court, I was a district attorney for 13 years. And in those 13 years, I practiced in all courts. I practiced in family court, I practiced in district court, I practiced in circuit court, and most importantly, I practiced and tried cases in District Court Place 9. I have a diverse background in criminal justice. In addition to being a judge, a district attorney, I've also been a defense attorney. So I have seen it from all sides. I have seen the struggles that people are going through in our neighborhoods, and I think it's important that you not only have a good understanding of the law, but you have a good understanding of people and what they're going through. I think it's important to address the needs of the whole person on an individual basis that come before you. If someone comes to my court without a job, then it's my job to try to get them a job. If they are struggling with addictions, it's my job to try to help them. If they're dealing with domestic violence, I try to give them coping skills. You're basically trying to treat the needs of the whole person. Because if you don't treat those underlying needs, then you're not helping to eradicate crime. I want victims to leave my court made whole. That's my time, but I ask that you remember Keisha Davis. I will care, be concerned, and be compassionate about everyone that comes before me on the bench.
Thank you. You're fine, thank you. You're kind of running behind on time, but I want to recognize all the other candidates that are here. We like to be fair. We put the information out there, and if you didn't get it, I'm sorry. But we stuck it out there as best we could. So if you are a candidate and you didn't get a chance to speak, Quando, he is actually come on, you might as well do it anyway. You're first. Let's go. You're first. He is. He's the first Asian. Absolutely. He is a first. I'm going to let him introduce himself. Quando. Oh, and let me say this. Big Friendly Productions back there is our sound people, man. We really thank you for that. You gotta use those guys.
My name is Quando. I'm running for House District 55. I guess I'll follow the template and tell you guys a little bit about myself. I am currently an educator at Shades Valley High School, and my campaign platform is simple. Educate, reform, and empower. And I say that to say that if we really want to fix our education system, we have to reform what's happening outside of the classroom to empower our communities to do better. One of the things that we've talked about a lot is this idea of fighting for District 55 in Alabama. I think it's important for anyone, whether it's a judge seat, a state legislator, or a governor, to fight for the values of what it means to be an Alabamian. I think of a student that I have who has recently transferred into Shades Valley. And I know a couple of weeks ago that the school report cards were released. And as a teacher and as an educator, we feel very strongly about the school report card. I think it's important for us to keep ourselves accountable. But at the end of the day, you can take a student from Birmingham City Schools, from Jefferson County City School, and move them into Vestavia, Mountain Brook, Hoover, whatever neighborhood, and nothing changes. Right? Nothing changes when their mother or father is still having to work 60, 80 hours a week. Nothing changes when their car breaks down and that student can't go to school. Right? Nothing changes when that mother gets sick or that father gets sick and their job doesn't provide off days, sick days, doesn't provide health insurance. Right? One of the things I will promise you, as your representative for District 55, is that I will fight for the values of not only District 55, but for Alabama. And I will make sure that I do everything in my power to get everyone to buy into the vision of what Alabama is, where we can be, and where we should be. So again, our kickoff event is next Wednesday, February 28th, 5:30 p.m. It is at Brennan's Irish Pub in 5 Points South. I would love to see any of you all there. And please follow us on social media. It's Quando, so it's QUANGDO for District 55. Thank y'all so much.
Pastor, ain't much different between a politician and a pastor. Boy, you gotta take that mic. We gotta take it. Judge candidates that are here, or candidates, would you guys please stand so we can give you recognition? Please, if you are a candidate here in Jefferson County, please stand. Please. After the show is over, please get to know them. That's what this is about. Walk up and get to meet them. I have some guests here from out of town, and I know we're getting behind on time. But I have Dr. Randy Kelly here with us, who is the vice chair of the Alabama Democratic Conference, correct? Can you just come up and give us a couple of quick words? I'm going to recognize our guest, and I got one more, Mr. Bobby Pearson. He's going to also speak for a second, and then we're going to get straight to the program, to our special guest speaker.
Thank you. I am the vice chair of the Alabama Democratic Conference, but I'm also the vice chair of the Democratic National Committee Black Caucus. But I'm also the first black vice chair of the Alabama Democratic Party. So I'm here to make sure that we get Democratic candidates elected on all levels. We have some great candidates. Let's give them a great big round.
You got to love the doctor. The doctor know how to do it. He's a preacher too. Yeah, he is a one. He know how to do it. Really know how to do it. Mr. Pearson, please. Bobby Pearson.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bobby J. Pearson. I am here representing our state NAACP president, Brother Bernard Simonton. In NAACP, we are a non-partisan group, but I want to inform each and every one of you that you need to be, or you should be, a one-man or one-woman voter registration individual. And this reminds me of several years ago, there was a cartoon in the Birmingham News where individuals were sitting in front of a trailer home, single wide. Two little kids was out playing. The mother and the father were sitting in their little rocking chairs. And the father looked over at the mother and said, "Hey, baby, when are we going to have another one of those elections so we can vote against ourselves?" People, let me tell you, if we don't go out and vote our interests, we're going to be in big trouble. Again, thank you for allowing me to speak.
As far as the judges as well, we have some state reps in the House. We'd like to acknowledge them as well. And we have one last speaker before we get into the forum. Imagine you get elected into your office and you can't do one day of work. Imagine becoming a doctor and you couldn't help anybody. Imagine becoming a school teacher and you couldn't teach. You did all of what you were supposed to do. You went to school and you just couldn't do it. This next guest hails from Camilla, Georgia. I'm sorry, I've actually spent the weekend with him and I'm just tired of him. This brother, he's a fun, very interesting, very educated brother who left from New York, and he'll tell you the story. Mayor Rufus Davis got elected, and the city turned on him. They didn't let him do anything. Imagine, first mama is here, Mayor. Imagine Mayor Whiffen coming in and couldn't do one day of work. Can you imagine seeing your son? But this is what this man here is. So we're going to let him tell you the story, Mayor Rufus Davis and Camilla, Georgia.
you very much. I was told to be as brief as possible and to sit down. So I'm going to try to be as brief as possible, no matter how long it takes. But first, let me say thank you, Lonnie Malone, and thank you, James Williams, for creating this forum. I want to acknowledge and thank all the elected officials that are here, the candidates for governor, the media, and the public. It's a great honor to be here, and I applaud your initiative to be involved and engaged in the things that matters in your community. Well, you may have heard headlines that were in the national news about a black mayor elected and denied keys to City Hall. I am the mayor of Camilla, Georgia. It's a city that is 70% African American. And I was elected in November of 2015. And at that time, the city council voted not to give me keys to City Hall. Now, my city council is made up of 3 blacks and 3 whites. And it reminded me of that movie Django, when Jamie Foxx rides up on the horse. And Samuel Jackson runs out of the house, and he looks at it and he figures, what are you doing here? Like, you're out of place. So I kind of, the denial of the keys was somewhat of a symbolic gesture that I was persona non grata. I was unwelcome in the seat. And what disturbed me about that is, the disenfranchisement of the voters and the people that elected me, that I represent. Now is a very important time for people to be involved, and to be involved in the issues that matter. The issues matter, and they matter now like never before. They matter because of the tone that's set in Washington. They matter because of racial rhetoric. They matter because of the resurgence of the racial rhetoric. And it has reached an inflection point. It has reached levels that we have not seen in America since pre-Lyndon B. Johnson. There are things that the social contract is being renegotiated, and our values and rights are being diminished. And each day, something more and more outrageous that was not acceptable yesterday becomes acceptable today. So our voices matter, and we have to do something about this. My city is 70% African American, and as of December 1st, 2017, there was a segregated cemetery where blacks and whites were divided by a fence. On the section where blacks were buried, there were no burial records. Some of the graves were open. It was unkept and dilapidated. 70% African American, and there were no black police officers. Only 3 employees inside City Hall were black, including the janitor. 97% of all black people who applied to jobs in my city over a 10-year period inside City Hall were rejected. 99% of all white school-age kids attend the historically all-white private school, and 99% of the African-American students attend the underfunded public school. To add to that, my city is racially gerrymandered, where there are only 2 voting districts. And although whites only make up 30% of the population, they have been compacted into one of those voting districts, 95% of them, to compact their voting strength, and they're almost guaranteed the majority of the seats on the city council. So, bear with me, I'm kind of reading from my technology here. So, how has this story been going? How has this kind of developed in my city? I want to just kind of share with you and provide an update. I am represented by Attorney Ben Crump. Well, let me just back up. Against the backdrop, I began a protest of my own city government back in December. It made national headlines. New York Times, LA Times, Roland Martin, Al Sharpton, all over the place. I began to boycott my city to protest racial inequality and injustice. I'm represented by Attorney Ben Crump, who represented Trayvon Martin in Ferguson, Missouri, and Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, and Trayvon Martin down in Sanford, Florida. And we drafted together a case styled Rufus Davis versus Rufus Davis, suing myself. The first Rufus Davis refers to me as a private citizen and my moral person, versus the second Rufus Davis, who's my public person in my capacity as mayor of my city, to sue my city to eradicate the fences of discrimination and segregation and inequality throughout my city. Now, often those who are aggrieved tend to assume that they are, their circumstances define them. And if you come to my city, it's pretty much normalized behavior. You won't see people running around. I'm sure if you went on a slave plantation, you would have seen people running around like something is wrong. It becomes normalized. And in my city, you won't see violence. You won't see fighting in the streets. You will see people who have accepted that we have created a power structure and it should be maintained and it's orderly. And you have people many who feel like their place is to live within this power structure. So you won't see a lot of chaos. However, in places where we don't see this and it has become normal, we have to insist on a new normal. And that's not only in Camilla, Georgia, that's anywhere injustice lives in the United States. So my purpose in sharing my story with you today is to hope that I will inspire you to take a stance towards change and progress in your own communities. And I feel that it's imperative that we muster the courage and the language to bring about the type of change we wish to see in this world. There's a saying that says, the only thing necessary for evil to prevail is for good men to do nothing. And I firmly believe that. So just a month ago, and I'm going to wrap up now, about a month ago, Attorney Ben Crump and I, we were very successful in having the fence in my cemetery in my city taken down. It had been there since 1926. And so we're very proud of that, and we continue to fight the other areas of segregation in my city. So now, with regards to the keys to City Hall, there is a lot that we have to do as a community. And, there are boundaries, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, boundaries are imaginary. But mankind has no boundaries. We are all part of the human community. So I'm going to ask you to do something that might work and it might fail. But will everyone take out your keys? I'll give you a couple of seconds to take out your keys. On the count of 3, I'm going to ask that everybody bring your keys. 1, 2, 3. You will continue to take your keys. Now the ringing that you hear signifies and represents a call to conscience. That we fight for justice until we have the keys to open opportunities for those who are denied opportunities in terms of our lives, in terms of education, in terms of economic opportunities, in terms of professional opportunities, and in terms of their livelihoods. And when we have done this as a nation, then we will have lived up to those highest ideals of democracy. And then I can focus on keys to City Hall. So thank you very much and let's look forward to a very robust debate tonight. God bless America, God bless Alabama, and God bless the city of Birmingham.
Can I give a round of applause, please? Any candidates that I forgot? Because we have circuit clerk candidates, we have candidates for mayor and Bessemer. We also have state, circuit clerk and state legislators. So I want to thank you guys for coming. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now let's get to the meat and potatoes of the night. My good friend, y'all know her from 6 on this side. I've done numerous talk shows with her over the years. One of the feistiest ladies I've ever met in my life. Now she's a church member. I even know that. I get to see her on Sunday. So I want y'all to welcome my friend Sheila Smoot. She's going to take over the program for me.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here tonight. I have not seen a diverse room like this in a long time, so give yourselves a hand for being here in the great state of District 8. I always call it the great state of District 8, Counselor. Thank you so much. I'm Sheila Smoot. I'll be your moderator, and we're going to get started tonight. While they take their seats here, there are 4 seats here, I'm going to go over the rules. Again, I'd like to welcome all of you here for this event, not necessarily political, but we're going to talk a little politics. Being there, done that before. I was the Jefferson County Commissioner, first female elected, and youngest still to this day. Are you younger than me? I is? Okay. Well, then you can take that spot. I'm gladly giving that up. It is hard running for office, folks. These candidates have been on the campaign trail. I've run campaigns. I've been in campaigning since I was 15 years old. I am a super voter, and a super voter means I vote every time, anywhere, on anything. It doesn't matter if it's the neighborhood association or them changing the park out tomorrow. I'm there. You should make that a mandate in your life, because voting, as we know, does matter. It does. That one vote, and I used to be that 20-year-old who didn't think it mattered until somebody older pulled me aside and said, but it does. So with that, I'm going to go over what we're doing here today. And also, thanks to my station, 98.7 KISS FM, Summit Media Corporation, and I'm the news director there, and also the vice chair, the second vice chair behind Randy Kelly of the Alabama Democratic Conference, which is a black caucus for the entire state of Alabama. Quietly, we do our work, and we are excited to have you here. This is what's going to happen today. We have 4 gubernatorial candidates, and they're going to introduce themselves. I know them all from a different life, in a good way. All of them here, and they're all exceptionally great candidates. I don't think I've seen a field in the Democratic Party for candidates like this in a long time. It will be a tough choice, but you have to make a choice. And with that said, this is how the program's going to go. Here are the rules, candidates. No applause or comments during debates, and it'll be a short debate. We'll get out of here quickly. Number 2, each candidate will be given a 2-minute opening statement. Each candidate will be asked questions and will be allowed a 1.5-minute response. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute closing statement, and no candidate will direct their responses toward any other candidate. We're going to play nice today. Y'all can do what you want in campaign trail. And our illustrious timekeeper, if you look at her, she's in the center. She will graciously give you the time. And we will have 5 questions. Each candidate will be asked the same question. And I will randomly just ask. There's no favoritism here. I know all these folks. I'm so excited that you guys are running and none of us are for that spot. Because it's 67 counties in the great state of Alabama. 67. Guess where they got to be? In all of them. Every one of them. And they look so good. So we're going to get you out of here because I know you sleep in the car. I know somebody sleeps in the car. So without further ado, here we go. First of all, we're going to start with you, Sue Bell Cobb, to introduce herself to you, the audience. Go.
Thank you, Sheila, and thanks to Lonnie and to James for, and not necessarily political, for putting this important forum together. You know, Alabama's issues are way too important to leave it up to politicians. Is that not correct? It is our citizens and the engaged citizens that are so important. And I want to thank y'all so much for giving us this great opportunity. You know what's the best way to see what somebody's going to do? The best way to see what a candidate will do? Look and see what that person has already done. I want to offer to y'all my 30 years of public service. I became a judge at the ripe old age of 25. I then ran twice in Connecticut County as a Democrat, and then ran for the Court of Criminal Appeals, where I served for 12 years, and then was fortunate to be honored to serve on the Chief Justice at the Supreme Court. And during that time, I always worried about the gaps. The fact that our state, being 50th in the nation, the amount of revenue that it receives to run government doesn't meet the basic needs of government. So look what I did as Chief Justice and as a judge. I realized that Alabama was one of the few states that did not have an Access to Justice Commission. I got the other justices to establish it. I made model drug courts a major priority, realizing that was the best way to save lives and make us safe and keep us safe. As a result, we started with just 14 active drug courts. When I completed my time as Chief Justice, we had drug courts in 66 of 67 counties, almost 100 courts of accountability. Further, I worked on juvenile justice reform. Having been a juvenile judge, Sheila, you remember those days. I was a juvenile judge and president of the Juvenile Judges Association. I worked to write and get the legislature to pass juvenile justice reform. At that time, ladies and gentlemen, 252 kids were locked up in DYS for crimes they had never committed. We got the legislature in 2008 to pass juvenile justice reform because of bold leadership. So when you want to look and see what someone's going to do as governor, look and see what they've done. And please, on June 5th, vote Sue Cobb.
Thank you. Sue Cobb, everybody. Our next candidate up is James Fields.
Thank you, Sheila, Lonnie, and James, and to all of you. We appreciate you being here tonight. It does our hearts well to know that so many people are engaged. But I first want to introduce you to my wife, Yvette, our second oldest daughter, Chanel Nicole, Chris Thomas, Curtis, nephew Ivan, Becca, Shirley, first cousin, Randy, Phil, and Mrs. Linton. And then our new staff member is with us tonight. Folks, this race is very important. Without change, nothing changes. And we are the change. We are the direct change that this state needs. We are the ones who have been in the trenches. We know what it means to govern. We know what it means to be compassionate. We know what it means to be law-abiding. We know the hurt and the pain that people are suffering throughout this state because we lived it. It's not nothing we thought about or something we saw on TV. It was part of us. We served 28 and a half years in public service work, helping people move from one state to the next, as far as being unemployed and looking for a job to feed their families. We spent 28 and a half years working in law enforcement. We spent 17 years serving a church in the United Methodist Church. We spent 5 years serving the World Church, dealing with ecumenical work and holistic conferences, bringing countries together to deal with the issues that directly affect all of us. We want to be your governor. On June the 5th, it is James C. Fields, Jr. Please remember that name. Thank you.
Thank you, James Fields. Our next candidate is the current mayor of the city of Tuscaloosa. His name is Walt Maddox.
Good evening. When I was 17 years old, I knew I was going to be a Democrat. I remember hearing Paul Hubbard in 1990 speak about his campaign. And I got a bumper sticker. I went home, put it on my El Camino. Yes, I drove an El Camino because as a bag boy is all I could afford. I'm just a kid of the public schools. And I remember hearing Dr. Hubbard talk about healthcare, education, diversity and inclusion, talk about good roads and infrastructure, good jobs. And here we are, so many years later, still talking about the same issues. As mayor of Tuscaloosa, I didn't have the opportunity to hide behind the marble of Montgomery. I've had to work every day to find solutions. In Tuscaloosa, we've done that, and I hope to get an opportunity to talk to you about it. But I think the one thing that has been clear about my 12 years of service with the city, I know what it's like to lead in good times, but I also know what it's like to lead in crisis. Through the Great Recession, through one of the worst natural disasters in the state history. And throughout those challenges, Tuscaloosa has come stronger. Leadership is about what you do in crisis, when you're tested, when you're pushed up against the wall, when you have to make the tough decisions that are not easy and will never have unanimous consent. The last 12 years as mayor, whether it's been health care, infrastructure, pre-K, you name the issue, we've been bold enough to lead them. As governor, I'm going to do the same. And I'm never going to forget that 70-year-old kid who was proud as hell to put that bumper sticker on the back of that El Camino because he believed in the Democratic Party and believed what it stands for. Thank you all for coming out tonight, and I look forward to talking about the issues that matter with my colleagues behind me and with our great moderators. Thank you.
Thank you. Walt, Maddox. Our next candidate is Anthony White.
For a minute, repeat after me. Together, Alabama. Together, Alabama. That is what my campaign is all about. Bringing Alabama together. I'm 36 years old, and I just believe that together we can build a stronger and greater Alabama. I just believe that. And I need your support and your prayers, because this race is not about me, but this race is about my children, your children, and generations to come. So what we have to do is understand that this race is critical. And the name of this event is not necessarily political. I just believe that in this seat, we need someone that is not necessarily political. Someone that will fight for people. Someone that will fight for human rights. Someone that will fight with integrity and just do the right thing. Putting people first. Because it's very simple. If the people grow, what else will happen? The state will grow. So we have to put focus back on the people and do the right thing. Come June 5th, vote Anthony White, Alabama governor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. And with that said, these are your four candidates. Please, please, please make sure you listen carefully to all their answers on these questions. Our first question will go to Mr. White, because I'm just going to go back from the end. So get back up there or stay seated. You can stay seated if you wish. It's up to you. Explain your plans for a lottery, and how do you plan to distribute funds if such a law is passed?
Well, that's a great question about the lottery. It's something that I believe that will help Alabama tremendously. With a lottery, it will bring about somewhere around $200 to $500 million roughly to Alabama. And with those funds here in Alabama, it will bring Alabama out of a budget deficit each year that we face, year after year after year. We all know the trials and the tribulation that Alabama go through on a yearly basis. But now is the time to fix those problems. Now is that time to fix those problems. With the lottery, I will make sure that our children are the focus point. What we can do is make sure that our children can go to a 2-year or 4-year college. So that way they won't have to go into this world with debt all over their head. But what we must do is focus on the children. And if we have a lottery here, it will help the people. And when I talk about encouraging people, my campaign is based around empowerment. What can we do to help people? We can bring a lottery here. Everywhere I go, I hear people talk about, what is your stance on the lottery? What is your stance on the lottery? Being that I'm a minister. The thing is, if elected governor, I will not be a governor just because I'm a minister. But I'll be a governor to fight to help Alabama get better. And that's what I'm going to do if I'm elected governor.
Walt Maddox.
Well, I'm tired of educating Georgia and Florida and children, quite frankly, and so I'm absolutely in favor of that. And today we unveiled the Alabama Education Lottery, and it has 4 cornerstones that we're excited about. because we're going to be able to invest $300 million without raising taxes. The first cornerstone talks about something near and dear to my heart. I talked about when I ran for mayor in 2005, and that's pre-K for our children. What we're going to do is create universal pre-K across Alabama for the 70% of the children who do not have it. The second thing is a scholarship program, very similar to what you see in Tennessee. Not only are we going to focus on higher ed, but also 2-year and career technical. 90% of the jobs that have been created since the Great Recession have required either a 4-year degree or a 2-year technical degree or a trade that has been learned. We have got to begin that momentum in Alabama, very similar to what you see in Tennessee. The third thing that we're going to do is establish the Promise Program. The Promise Program is going to make up the deficits that we see in funding with the Alabama Foundation Program. As you know, part of the Foundation Program is a 10 meal match by local governments. What we want to do is equalize that, because we know 1 meal in Mountain Brook doesn't equal 1 meal in Marengo County. And the fourth thing that we want to do is what Quando talked about. We have too many of our children coming into the classroom with academic needs, mental health needs, nutritional needs, physical health needs. So under our community innovation grants, we are going to provide innovation schools the opportunity for these wraparound services.
James Fields.
Well, we hear it year after year. We're going to get an education lottery. We're going to introduce a lottery bill. And it has not come to pass because you have failed leadership. This is one governor who will make sure that you will have a lottery bill to vote on, because that is your right to vote. And that is something over 80% of Alabamians want to do. And yet, it's each year you hear the same rhetoric. Each time an election cycle comes around, you hear the same thing. I appreciate my friend having the 4 points. And I appreciate the idea of a lottery. And it must go to education. Pre-K programs are great. But what about the parenting skills? So if I take your child in at the age of 2 or 4, 8 hours a day, and not give you something to work with, then the parenting skills are taken away. So it's got to be more than that. If it's $300 million, if it's $400 million, if it's $500 million, how much is enough? We're going to make sure that education is provided to every child in this state. Everybody's not going to go to college, but you may get a vocational training. You may be the best HVAC there is. You may be the best plumber there is. You may be the best electrician there is. And so we must invest in all of Alabama. And the lottery is for all of Alabama. And so, folks, we must be very careful. But this is one governor that will make sure you have a lottery bill to vote on, if we even have to write it. We'll make sure that the legislators are held accountable, and that they will be accountable to you, and they will make sure that the bill gets out to you so that you can vote on it. And that's what it's all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Sibel Cobb.
Thank you, Sheila. Lifelong Learner Lottery. I was the first candidate for governor to come out with the plan regarding the lottery, and this is how your money will be spent. That $300 million a year, conservatively, that will be coming in, first we will set up a commission, a lottery commission, that will be beyond reproach, totally transparent. Second, the funds will go to help people that need it the most. Fully fund K-4. Y'all know we're only meeting 28% of the 4-year-old kindergarten need. We fully fund K-4. Then, because of the need between 0 to 3 child care, we need to add on a sliding scale for working families to help with child care 0 to 3. Then we fully fund Career Tech. We're only now presently meeting 50% of the Career Tech need. With the Lifelong Learner Lottery, we will fully fund Career Tech, and every single child will have the opportunity for access for state-of-the-art Career Tech. Lastly, the balance of the funds will go to pay the difference in Pell Grants, so that every single person, whether they're 18 and want to complete their education as far as a technical degree, or if they or college, or if they're 50 and lost their job, they would be eligible to get the Lifelong Learner Lottery funds to pay the gap for Pell Grants and go to school for free. This will transform Alabama. It's going to put money into our education trust fund, so that we can pay teacher raises and fully fund early reading initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question. The Associated Press posted an article, January 31st, 2018, that the Trump administration's $1.5 trillion infrastructure plan shifts the burden to the states and encourages the states to identify private investors. What are your plans to fix our roads, our rails, our bridges, and our waterways in the state of Alabama? And we'll start that question with Walt Maddox.
Well, first of all, what could go wrong with that formula? Just fill in the blank. Number one, that is not living in a real world. As a mayor, every single day, I'm responsible for nearly $1 billion in infrastructure that I have to make certain meets the standard of Tuscaloosa. In fact, in 2015, we had to pass legislation called the Transforming Tuscaloosa County Act that's going to take $120 million of local tax dollars and invest it into ALDOT highways. Why? Because right now across the state, 20% of our bridges are functionally obsolete. That meant 1 million of our fellow citizens drove over these bridges and they shouldn't have done it. There's really been no concrete plan and no leadership to get it passed. As governor, we're going to pass the Alabama Alliance for Infrastructure Plan. It is time that we take a responsible method and responsible strategy to invest into our roads. But here's the caveat that I would change as governor. We have to do this based on priority. As mayor, we don't invest based off the power of a council member or the power of a council district. We invest based off the need of the infrastructure, whether it's road, bridges, sewer, which we don't have time to talk about, which is a true travesty in our state, water, fiber, which is your broadband. We are going to take a strategic approach in addressing that through the Alabama Alliance for Infrastructure Plan.
Thank you. Mr. Fields?
You're right. The president did say that. I often wondered why. $1.3 trillion for infrastructure. And when you hear the word infrastructure, the first thing that comes to your mind is roads and bridges and etc. That's not infrastructure. Infrastructure is being able to communicate with the outside world. Infrastructure is being able to put broadband into every home in the state of Alabama. Infrastructure is being able to make sure that every home in Alabama has running water. Infrastructure in the state of Alabama is being to make sure that every home in Alabama is sustainable. All the bridges and all the roads you can fix, but if you can't move people across your state, it doesn't matter. We are spending money on top of money fixing roads. What we need to do, folks, we need to think ahead. We need to think about commuter rail. We need to think about a way of moving people from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham, from Birmingham to Atlanta, from Atlanta back across the top of the state to Memphis, from Memphis back to Atlanta, to Chattanooga, to Nashville, so that when our young engineers, when our young professional people finish college, they can go to work somewhere else, but they'll come back home on this rail. Some people say, well, how can you do that? What you do is you go to each major city and you get them to partner. Years ago, Birmingham was trying to partner with Atlanta to have a commuter rail from Birmingham Airport to the Atlanta Airport. But people failed to communicate. This is one governor that can communicate. And I'll go to these large cities and says, look, we need to buy in because your people need it. Yes, people are traveling over dangerous bridges and dangerous roads, and we need to fix them. We also need to fix some of these dams that are in our state. Alabama have more navigable waterways than any state in the union. Alabama have more people who are left out in the cold because we only think about it. When you think, just think about it for a moment. Think about it for a moment. When you hear the word infrastructure, talk about let's take priority. Think about it. How many people will be left out? My priority is for all of Alabama. The heart of Alabama. That's my priority.
Thank you. Sybil Cobb.
Thank you, Sheila. It's time, y'all. It is time. It is time to have a governor that will tell the people what they should hear, not what they want to hear. We literally, in Alabama today, are in a situation where county commissions are evaluating which roads to put back to dirt. Y'all, our parents generation was known as what? What, Chris? The greatest generation. What are we going to be known as? Right? What are we going to be known as? I want to be the kind of governor that's known for the kind of leadership that really will work with both sides across the aisle, but will work to basically tell the people what they should hear. And what they must hear is we have not elevated our fuel tax in over 25 years. Are y'all tired of sitting in parking lots of I-65? Anybody? Anybody tired? Anybody tired of going up to Coleman? Going down to Clanton and Montgomery? It's going to take somebody who truly is more concerned about the next generation than the next election, is truly more concerned to be able to establish that leadership in order to look for a way to actually afford to improve our infrastructure. And let me hasten to say this. I also, as governor, want to take an honest and bold look at toll roads. If we will look at toll roads to cut off major thoroughfares, like from 2059, going from Gadsden, go up through like Blount County or somewhere like that, up to I-65. If we would look at some of the toll roads, I think that that's another avenue that could greatly help us with congestion.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. White.
Now, when we mention and talk about infrastructure, we're going to need some experts. I'm not an expert by far. I'm not a politician. But I do believe, and what I will do, I will promise, every decision that comes across my desk, I'll have 2 to 3 experts there with me to go over everything so that we can do what's best for Alabama, growing Alabama in every way possible. We will have the experts there. I will build a team, and the team will work hard. We will work hard. My grandfather was the first business owner in my family, and he showed me the very essence of hard work. He showed me what it was like to get out and make it happen. He showed me what it was like to press beyond the I can'ts and believe that it can be done. Well, Alabama, I promise you one thing. If I'm elected governor, I will bring that same work ethic that my grandfather showed me and taught me into this seat to make sure that everything's get better for Alabama. I will fight for Alabama. I will fight for roads. I will fight for infrastructure. I will fight for the people's growth. And I will do that if I'm elected governor.
Thank you. Our third question. Alabama has secured 2 new auto plants, Toyota and Mazda, in the Huntsville, Madison area, giving the state now 5 plants, which includes Mercedes-Benz, Honda, and Hyundai. What are your plans to secure job training for the upcoming increase in job opportunities? Mr. Fields.
We already have job training in place, AIDT, Alabama Department of Training, and other programs. We just got to get people to these places to get them trained. The sad part about it is, when you name those industries, they're all in North Alabama. And we're forgetting about our people in South Alabama. How do we get them employed? How do we get them to these jobs? We're going to spend all that money in North Alabama. In 2020, there will be a census taken, folks. And if everybody's in the North, we will lose a congressional seat in our state. And that's part of our future. So we hope that we'll be able to convince some of those industries to put some first-tier industries in the southern part of our state, into the Black Belt, into the heart of our state, so that people can get good jobs. Mercedes-Benz is getting ready to put on a full electrical line. They're going to make a fully electric automobile. So when I talk about commuter rail, these things are just right around the corner. Alabama educate more engineers than probably any state in the country. Tuskegee University, UAH in Huntsville, University of Alabama, University of Auburn, Alabama State, Alabama A&M. These people educate engineers, and we need to put their minds to work for Alabama. And that's what we hope to do if we are elected your next governor. Thank you.
Thank you. Sibel Cobb.
Lifelong Learner Lottery. With $300 million, as I mentioned, a significant portion of those funds will fully fund our workforce development. With $50 million of the lottery proceeds, We will fully fund workforce development and put state-of-the-art career tech within the reach of every single Alabamian. And while doing that, we're creating jobs in every single county. Sumter, Franklin, Pickens, Etowah, every single county will have their share. We have the regional councils. The problem is, as many of you already know, there's just not the funding to help train these young people. Dual enrollment is unbelievably important. With the $50 million that we would allocate according to those in this area, with that $50 million, we will be able to fully meet the specific career tech needs in each region. Mobile's different from Birmingham. Birmingham's different from North Alabama, Limestone or Athens. The needs are different. But what we've got to do is work so that our children can take advantage and have that opportunity. Because with when we have the Lifelong Learner Lottery, when y'all elect me your governor, we will be fully meeting our workforce development, where 100% of our people who are physically able to work will have the opportunity to have the training and the ability to be able to treat and to support their families. You know, it's one thing to have more jobs. It's time to have better jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Empowerment. Empowerment is one thing I will focus on heavily, from my children to our adults. I will make sure that every man, woman, boy, or girl have the same opportunities across the board to exceed to the highest of heights. They will not be able to say that I cannot do this, because I will make sure that we light a fire under them so that they can feel that anything can be accomplished. That's what we lack in Alabama. We need to make sure that we are pushing our young people towards success. And that's important. But a lot of times we forget about that. We need to put incentives in place. At my daughter's elementary school, they have a program where if you have all A's or if you have A's and B's, you get incentivized. What happened, if you get A's and B's, you can go to Krispy Kreme, you can go and get ice cream. I believe that we should initiate that across Alabama to all of our children. Give them some incentives. Let them know that we care. And I will fight for Alabama if I'm elected governor.
Thank you. Walt, Maddox.
This is the quintessential question facing all Alabamians, real quick, and it's a lot to cram in a minute and a half. Number one, we're going to consolidate and hopefully, we will coordinate our workforce development councils, K-12 and post-secondary, and we need to align those councils with the workforce development regions to meet the skills of those in that regions and the jobs that are there or are coming. Tuscaloosa has done an outstanding job of this, so when you get home, Google Tuscaloosa Career Technical Academy to see exactly what we've been able to do in Tuscaloosa, what we're going to implement statewide. The second thing is part of our lottery proposal we released today. And in that lottery proposal is career technical training and workforce development for Alabamians. Why do we need that? Today in Alabama, 100,000 people came into our state to work in Alabama jobs. 100,000 people. At the same time, we have 600,000 people that are in jobs that their skills are higher than, thus they're not getting paid enough. Let me end with a question. In the last 20 years, Mercedes, all the other automotive suppliers, Airbus, you name the defense industry in Huntsville. And why are we still 46, 47, 48, 49th, 50th in every category? Because we don't invest in education, we don't invest in health care, we don't invest in road and bridges, and that's going to change when you elect the governor. Thank you.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know, in the state of Alabama, there are a ton of dirt roads. You got it good in Birmingham. There are a ton of dirt roads, and that's why roads are so important. The Alabama DOT is a big lobby that all of these folks would have to deal with if they win, but it's a big deal. Infrastructure. You have broadband. They do not have that. You know, they got dial-up in Camden, in Wilcox County. I don't think you understand. You got this beautiful facility. They don't have facilities in some of these rural counties. They just don't. Jobs. They can't read.
They can't do the math. So Airbus, what, 25,000 jobs? Guess what? They're importing people into the state of Alabama to take your jobs because the aptitude is not there, and these companies have to run a business. That is what's going to happen when Toyota and Mazda comes if you do not elect a gubernatorial candidate and other candidates that can push through, that understand your needs. Let's go on. Speaking of that, minimum wage. How many of you agree that, with a show of hands, that the minimum wage should be raised? And with that said, Subel Cobb, you're first. What should the minimum wage, in your opinion, be for the state of Alabama?
There was an effort in Tuscaloosa called 1010. I think that's a good starting place. Unfortunately, it was blocked. But we understand that in Alabama, we have the fourth highest percentage of minimum wage jobs in the nation. Y'all know what that is. That's disgusting. That's what that is. We need a governor who understands the importance of a living wage. And what we've got to do, and I totally agree with Sheila, because of the lifelong learner lottery, we'll be able to make sure that every child in Alabama is ready to succeed when it's time to go to first grade. And as a result of that, they're going to be ready for those jobs. So we can do much more than have minimum wage jobs. So to minimum wage jobs, we have got to have a governor that makes it a priority, an absolute priority, that is courageous enough to look business in the eye and say, you're not telling the truth when you say that you're going to lose jobs. You're not going to lose jobs. The data shows that elevating the minimum wage helps our economy, does not hurt our economy. And we need a governor who, yet again, is bold enough to tell the people what they should hear, not necessarily what they want to hear. I can promise you this, Subel Cobb will work morning, noon, and night to increase wages for all people in Alabama, all of us.
Candidate Anthony White.
On this issue, we would definitely, again, go back to bring the experts to the table, people that study this day in out, day out. In Tennessee, I believe, they took the minimum wage up to $15 an hour. I would bring individuals to the table so that we can research, go page by page, research the issues, and see what can we do to put the focus back on helping the people of Alabama, because it's very important. And so I don't want to stand here and make the promises of this and that, but I will promise you, if elected governor, I will sit down at the table and research with experts to make sure that we can raise minimum wage, and that will equip to helping the people of Alabama.
Thank you. Walt Maddox.
I agree with Judge Cobb. The people of Alabama need a governor that will tell them the truth. And in 2015, there was an effort to increase minimum wage in the city of Tuscaloosa alone. Now, it made for great politics. People would have loved me. I could have said, we're going to do it, but it's been unconstitutional, Judge, as you know. So we did the right thing. We told the people the truth. And we went on record, in fact, I may be the only candidate by council resolution that's gone on record in 2015, to support a statewide minimum wage increase. And as governor, we will continue to fight for that minimum wage increase statewide. We have to do it statewide. Else you're going to pit Hoover against Birmingham, Northport against Tuscaloosa. And look, who's going to win that battle of the haves and have-nots? The people who need it the most. So you need a governor that will tell you the truth. That's not just going to get your heads to nod because it sounds good, but somebody that's every day going to do what he believes in his heart is right for the people that he represents. I'm not going to lose that focus when we win this election. And here's the other thing. We've got to focus beyond minimum wage job. 100,000 people we import a day into our state. Think about if we can elevate our people through our lottery plan for workforce development and through our coordinated job training program. That's where we become a next level state. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Fields.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Folks, minimum wage in Alabama? What is minimum wage? I appreciate the efforts by the folks in the city of Birmingham, led by Ladarius Hilliard, and got it passed. And then Montgomery turned it around. Think about this. You got Mercedes, Toyota, Hyundai, Honda, possibly another automobile industry, and we pay $90,000 to $100,000 per job that they supposedly going to create. You just heard that they are bringing in people. So what about the people of Alabama? What about that mom and that pop that's working on a poultry industry, struggling to feed their family? What about that young man who's working in an industry or garment industry? We got to pay people fair living wages. People got to be able to live like you do and like I do. People got to be able to take their families on vacation. So we need to fight for fair, equitable wages. And that's why Alabama should be a state to where both labor and business can sit down at the same table. For too long, we have turned our back on the best product that we have in this state, and that is the people that we serve, you. You're the ones who make up this state. You're the ones who will be going back out in your communities and saying to your friends, I need you to vote for James Fields, because James Fields is going to stand up for us. James Fields understands. We went from education lottery to now taking money out of the lottery and paying for other things. My wife is a workforce development person. I served on the North Alabama Council of Governments, one of the 12 regions. Sometimes duplication is not good for our state. We need to vote James Fields, June 5th.
All right. Our next candidate? Yeah. Mr. Milcott, did you answer that? Yes, you did. I'm sorry. Mr. White. Okay. You got everybody? Okay, well, that's good. I'm moving right along. All right. I'm not going to keep you long. That's what Elizabeth Taylor said, right? Some of you millennials don't know that. All right, let's go to our last question, and then I'll take a couple questions from the audience. I will need you to have those questions. I don't need statements, I need a question. It's a gubernatorial race, y'all can take that up with your other candidates. Have a little more time with them. So, our last question right now, at least from the prepared questions, unemployment is at an all-time high in parts of the country, and it's really, really bad in parts of the Black Belt, parts of the Black community, and women. How do you plan on, and what do you plan to do in regard to the unemployment rate, and particularly with Black communities and others? And we'll start with you, Mr. White.
I think unemployment right now is around 3.5%. I believe
it's 3.5% for average.
I think
but it's yeah, you're right, and I will correct that. In the Black community, it's double digits. In the Black Belt and other rural counties, proceed.
What I would do, I would put jobs on the forefront. Searching within Alabama first, throughout the country, and then abroad. We will try to focus on putting jobs here, bringing up proposals, asking individuals, business owners, what can we do to bring businesses? What can we do to get you to bring your business here to Alabama? That's what we need to do. We need to sit down at the table, searching in Alabama first. Because if we need the business owners in Alabama, they want opportunities. But we have to make the opportunities available to them. I will focus on jobs, making sure that when children go to college, they get out of college. They don't have to go to Tennessee. They don't have to go to Texas. They don't have to go to Washington. They don't have to go to different places. But they can search for jobs within Alabama. That's important. We need to restore Alabama's values. We need to make Alabama beautiful again. Because there has been so much corruption over the years. But now's the time to elect a governor who cares and who will put in the work and work hard for the people of Alabama. Thank you.
Thank you. Walt Maddox.
I've talked about the lottery. I've talked about workforce development. Those elements stand strong. Let me talk about the Black Belt and then minority participation. In the Black Belt, until we address the issues of education, healthcare, and infrastructure, it is going to be impossible to be able to bring high-paying jobs. Because whether it's Mercedes, whether it's the suppliers, whether it's any industry, you've got to have those basic elements. And those basic elements have been ignored in Alabama for way too long. Remember, in Lowndes County, Alabama, they discovered our fellow citizens with hookworm. That should not be acceptable in our Alabama. So first and foremost, we've got to improve those elements. The second thing that I think is important is we've got to be intentional about creating minority businesses. If we're not intentional, we're just doing nothing but give lip service. In Tuscaloosa, we implemented Tuscaloosa Builds. Tuscaloosa Builds is a program that since we started in 2013 has created over 200 minority-owned businesses in Tuscaloosa. Last year alone, nearly $10 million in contracts, city contracts, to minority-owned businesses. This doesn't include now that the University of Alabama participates in our program. PARA, Tuscaloosa City Schools, Tuscaloosa County Schools. And in a few months, we'll be opening up the EDGE, which is going to be a partnership between the University of Alabama, the Chamber of Commerce, and the City of Tuscaloosa, a $12 million facility that's built for entrepreneurs with a component of minority business development. That is what we're going to bring to the table when you elect this government. Innovation, effectiveness, pushing the envelope, and be willing to talk about the issues we've been afraid to talk about for too long in this state.
Mr. Fields.
You're correct. The unemployment rate is in single digits in some places, and then in the Black Belt it is double digits and probably even higher. The unemployment rate is based on the people who are receiving unemployment checks. A lot of people that can't get unemployment, a lot of people's unemployment has expired, so then they go out of the system, and so therefore they're not counted. How you get jobs in the Black Belt, how you get jobs in the poor counties, is that you will talk to employers. And if you're going to come to my state and you're going to open up shop, you're going to put something there. If I'm going to give you $90,000 for every job that you create, you're going to create some jobs in the Black Belt. We can educate our people if we are intentional. Some counties don't have universities in them. Some counties don't have all the other amenities in their counties. They're barely surviving. And when you ride through those counties, those people are suffering just like anyone else. Yeah, we need to, first thing we would do is sign the Medicaid expansion bill. Get it done, get it out of the way. The second thing is the lottery, the education lottery, which will go for education, and it will be equally dispersed to every school system in the state, and especially in the Black Belt. And there will be jobs created down there. Because we have people who go across this state helping folks make sure that they get livable wages. Folks, keep that in mind, livable wages, where people can sit down at the family table and talk with their children. Time's up. Folks, we need your help. And you know where the hurt is. And the unemployment rate is deplorable when you get to some areas in this state. I'm sorry, I'll yield the rest of my time to you.
Thank you, James. He's great.
That's right today.
He's great. All these guys are great. They're all great. And it's wonderful for us to have the opportunity for Democrats to have qualified folks like this right here, isn't it? We have choices. And there's going to be excitement in the Democratic primary because of these choices. Having been an unfettered, outspoken child advocate, I can tell you what's the best way to take care of children? For mom and daddy to have a good job, right? That's the best way. And that's exactly what we've got to do by all the things, and a lot of us have mentioned, because, you know, honestly, y'all, there's not going to be near the differences between us, is there, guys, than between one who you elect as a Democrat and on the Republican side. Because what happened on the Republican side? We had a doctor sworn to take the Hippocratic Oath. Did he not? And he refused to expand Medicaid, and that cost Alabama $8 billion with a B jobs. Money. $8 billion, 30,000 jobs, and those jobs would have been spread throughout the entire state. So that is what you're going to have by electing the right Democrat, the person that can win in November, and the person that actually has a feel and a compassion and concern for the least of these. I'm from Kanaka County. I know what it's like to have roads that you can't patch. I know what it's like. My hospital, my community hospital, one of the reasons why I'm running for governor, one of the major reasons I'm running for governor, is the fact that my hospital is one of the 74 that's now operating in the red. We've got to fix it. We've got to fix it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're going to get to a couple questions in the audience. I think that oath was called hypocritic oath. Governor Bentley, that is my comment on that. Anyway, we are, you know what, Subel Cobb, you are from Connecticut County. Mr. White, where are you from?
I'm from
Houston County. Tell everybody where that is. Wiregrass.
Dothan, Alabama.
Dothan, Alabama. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your family. Just quickly, give me 20 seconds. Who are you, Mr. White?
I am a ordained minister of 13 years. I own a small business. I work in my community. We do Feed the Street. We go to different cities each month feeding 300 to 500 people in the community to give back. I am a person that truly cares about the growth of the people and the growth of this state. Because again, the equation is very simple. If we can focus and come up with true things that really works, focusing on people and then the state, and then that's the perfect combination. The people will grow, then the state will grow.
Have you done anything politically?
I've never done anything politically.
Never been elected to office?
I've never been elected to
office.
office.
What do you do daily?
I own a small business, and I'm a minister as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Walt Maddox, tell us a little bit about yourself. You got 30 seconds. Go.
Born and raised in Tuscaloosa, graduated from Central High School. Actually walked on at UAB and earned a scholarship in football and earned my undergrad and master's degrees here at UAB. Fortunate to go back home to Tuscaloosa. Very fortunate to marry Stephanie. And we have 2 children, Eli and Taylor. Taylor's at Northridge High School. She's 15 years old. And Eli's a 4-year-old preschool. So that's a little bit about myself. And again, thank all of you for sticking it out.
Current mayor of Tuscaloosa?
Thank you.
Are you the current mayor of Tuscaloosa? Have you done anything politically?
Yes, I've been elected 4 times, re-elected last March with 89% of the vote.
Done anything with the party? Done anything with the party?
I've served in the State Democratic Executive Committee, Local Democratic Executive Committee, and my work began when I was 17.
And were you the chairman of the Tuscaloosa County?
No, I never.
You never were. You look like it. I remember seeing you.
James Smith was always the chairman.
Okay, sounds like a winner. Let's go, Mr. Fields. Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, where you been, where you going.
I hope to be governor come June the 5th. And, I've heard we need to elect somebody on June the 5th that can win. We can win. We served as a state representative in Cobb, Alabama, when people thought it was impossible. There were a lot of people who thought it was an anomaly going on up there. But I have people from Cobb here tonight who will tell you James Fields is well respected. James Fields was a man who would lead his county and this state. James Fields was a man who won by 64% in a county that is 99.999% white, 98% Republican, and I won as a black Democrat. See, when you take your eye off the mark, you lose. When I ran for re-election in 2010, I took my eye off the mark. I'm happily married to my beautiful wife, Yvette Moore Fields. One of our daughters, Chanel, is over here. I called my other friends and relatives and cousins over here, and you can see they are a mixture. Folks, we know what it takes. We serve public service 28 and a half years.
All right, time's up. And Subel Cobb. Yes, he's given all his time to you. Subel Cobb.
Subel Cobb, a little girl from Evergreen, Alabama, shocked, nothing but shocked, that I have been able to have the privilege to serve, be the first woman elected to the Court of Criminal Appeals, be the first woman elected Chief Justice. And I could not have done it but for those I have had in my life. My husband, Bill, when Bill and I married 28 years ago, I inherited his 2 boys who he had custody of. Our son, Bo, is an FBI agent. Our son, Andy, works with the American Cancer Society. And I'm very happy to have my daughter, Caitlin. Caitlin, can you stand? Who just graduated with honors from Alabama and has been accepted. And Bill, as James just asked, how does a little girl from Evergreen, Alabama, how can she be successful statewide? Do y'all know? She marries a boy from Coleman.
Whatever works, folks, whatever works. Who has a question in the audience? All right. Step up. Okay, right here. Let's make it brief.
I just want to know each candidate's stance on abortion rights.
Abortion rights, go. 10 seconds.
I believe that in this process, in the event that someone does choose that, we need to put 3 options on the table before they make that choice. Seek spiritual counsel, professional counsel, and an abortion agent.
All right, go.
Personally, I'm pro-life. I'm going to be pro-law as governor. I think it's insanity to criminalize or politicalize such a very complicated and personal decision.
Go, Mr. Fields.
Abortion is the law, and we will abide by the law until the law is changed. We will abide by the law.
Go, Isabel Cobb.
I have friends of deep faith on both sides of that issue. And I'm absolutely convinced that the Republicans who've been in charge for way too long have kept us focused on divisive issues. So I have made the choice. I, of course, understand the rule of law. I believe in the rule of law. But I also believe that we've got to keep our focus on the issues that are going to put food on our table and take care of our children.
All right. Question.
Okay, so impressed with all of you. The President of the United States said, what in the hell does the African American voter have to lose? I want to ask you, what are you going to do about it? To make sure that the African American voter won't have to say that it is true. In the black belt, you don't have jobs, you don't have opportunity. What will you do to make sure what the president says is not true? Because in my mind, in most urban cities, in most African American communities, it's true. What in the hell does the African American voter have to do? And what do you
Come on, Pat, baby.
Pat,
Come on, baby.
I understand your
yes, I got to get over the mic now.
I understand your question.
Yes.
What in the hell is the...
I understood it when the president said it. If you are going to be the governor, and you explain, Mr. Fields, and some of you, about the condition of the children and the conditions of the mothers and fathers not working, what are you going to do to make sure that this doesn't continue to happen to the black voter?
Okay, thank you. Quickly. All right, Mr. White.
I'll begin first with changing the people's
Last question here, Sheila.
Changing the people mindset. Making sure that they feel valued again. A lot of people have just lost hope on the system, on the government. But I believe that we can spark a fire under every man and woman to get out and vote and understand that their voice matters.
All right, Isabel Cobb.
It's time to have a governor who will begin a real and meaningful conversation on race in Alabama. As a juvenile judge, I'm here to tell you, as a former Chief Justice and a judge for 30 years, I'm here to tell you, so much of Alabama's poor public policy that's keeping us at the bottom of every good list and at the top of every bad list is based on our unaddressed animosity by so many policymakers to those people of color and the poor. It is time to have a governor that wants to begin that conversation and keep that conversation going until Alabama becomes the envy of the South.
All right, Mr. Fields.
Without change, nothing changes. And we are that change. Each one of you are that change. When I looked at the TV back in October of 2017, and I saw a family in Camden, Alabama, walking down the road with their children carrying 2 jugs to get drinking water. That took me back to 1960. Now, folks, it's 2018, and they still don't have running water in their homes. The black vote do count. And you're looking at the change. And so does every vote in Alabama count.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. Mr. Walt Maddox.
When I was elected mayor in 2005, the first core value that I stated in my inaugural speech was that we were going to attack the problems in West Tuscaloosa, which is a predominantly black area of our city that had been forgotten for decades. And since that time, we've invested over $100 million in a myriad of different things you've heard me talk about tonight. So what are we going to do as governor? More than high platitudes, this is where we start. We've got to invest in infrastructure in rural Alabama, or we're never going to change the condition. We've got to create a program that engages minority business owners and develops more minority business owners. We have got to address our criminal code, including the decriminalization of marijuana.
All right,
that is just the start of where we'll begin on these issues.
All right.
Carlos Tevers, Outcast Voters League, we work with you when we can and against you when we have to. First off, I want to say thank you, Mayor Maddox, for at least saying the word black. It's something that we are so afraid to say. when Birmingham, I'm going to get to my question, but when Birmingham is 37% impoverished, and we have so many black people, 75% of the city black, so many black folks live in poverty. That's what we want to hear about. That's what we want to talk about. Nobody tonight.
No sermons, please. Let's get a question.
Absolutely.
No sermons.
I'm frustrated. I have a question. Let me get my statement out.
We can tell. You ready? Question.
Question, please.
As I was saying, with so many issues prevailing in the black community and what we're dealing with, what are you doing specifically in your capacity to deal with the issue of making sure that you stand up for the issues of black communities?
Okay, thank you. Go, Mr. Fields.
Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, Carlos.
For too long, Carlos. For too long. Black folk have been left out of the equation for too long. But I never governed a city. I was born and reared in an all-black community. Worked with white folk all my life. Calluses on my hands, picking beans and peas and slopping hogs. So I know what it means to hurt. And I know what the frustration is. And that's why we're running for governor. I don't have to paint a facade. I don't have other things at my disposal, but what I do have,
thank you, Mr.
I have your vote. Oh, thank you, sir.
All right,
Thank you.
Isabel Cobb, I want to take it from you.
30 seconds is hard, but I'm going to say so much of what I've done with access to justice, trying to make our civil justice system more accessible to those who are economically disadvantaged, juvenile justice reform, making sure that we weren't doing what we normally do or all too often happens, and that is the poor get a different result when they come to court. We've got to fix that, and my whole career has been worked on trying to fix that. Sentencing reform, comprehensive, meaningful sentencing reform is a huge problem.
All right, next, Walt Maddox, and then Mr. White.
Carlos, I don't know where, there you are. The truth is, black people in Alabama have been forgotten about.
Absolutely.
And when you look at our record as mayor, we've been willing to confront these issues. Doesn't mean that we're always perfect, but we're willing to confront those issues. And tonight, you've heard specific programs, specific ideas to address those issues. Whether it's increasing diversity, minority-owned business, investing in urban areas that have been totally forgotten, not only by too many cities, but state government.
All right.
That's where we find the solutions to these problems.
Thank you.
I've been in ministry for about 12 years. I believe that we as a state should work close with the pastors within our communities. Our churches are the pillar of our communities, and they can make a big change. So we need to put the focus on working with the people that are in charge. Even business owners. We need to bring business owners, and we also need to bring pastors to the table.
Thank you.
All right, we got two questions. You're going to take two, and you're going to take two. Speed round. Here we go.
Speed.
You're going to take. I got good balance, folks. And now I'm a lawyer. So. Okay. Quickly, human trafficking. What are you going to do about it?
I'm going to make sure that we restructure our security. And make sure that we come up with solutions, bring awareness more on actually bringing that to the forefront, because that is an issue.
All right, that's what you're going to do. Human trafficking, Isabel Cobb. That was one of our audience questions.
As many of y'all do know, that because of our proximity to Atlanta, we are, 2059, we are like a corridor for those that are involved in the horrific slave trade and human trafficking trade. So honestly, I think that us making sure that more people are aware of it, making sure law enforcement is more aware, so that we could make sure that we do a better job trying to...
Thank you, Ms. Cobb.
Thank you very much. Let's go to prison reform. Mr. Fields, quickly.
Prison reform, we will make sure that fair sentencing is taking place, and we're going to make sure that everybody that goes before any judge will be treated with the same respect and the law applied the same.
All right. Prison reform.
4 things before we go build $800 million in new prisons. We're going to address mental health, substance abuse, educational attainment, and career technical advancement and training.
30 seconds. Pardon shot. Isabel Cobb.
Parting shot?
Yep, we're wrapping up.
2006, I signed the dissent in the Ray Hinton case, which went up to the United States Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court cited my dissent. And later, Ray Hinton walked out a free man. He had been serving for 30 years on death row for a crime he did not commit. I'm telling you that I am committed to equal justice under the law. No one knows more about the criminal justice system than I do, and nor is more motivated to fix it.
Mr. White.
We need to definitely put a focus back on human rights. So many things go on within our prison systems, and we just overlook them. For instance, we need to make sure that we focus on serve. Make sure that the felons know that they have a right to vote, because a lot of them don't know that they have a right to vote. So we need to put the focus back on serving the people and doing what's right, leading with integrity.
Mr. Fields.
On human rights, everyone has a right to everything. Everyone has a right. And we as leaders should make sure that no one is left out. And we need to make sure that everybody is treated with the same respect. And we need to reach out and make sure that everybody has a seat at the table. And that's what it's all about.
And Walt Maddox.
If we're talking about human trafficking, then Aaliyah needs to be coordinating with local law enforcement along with the task force from the FBI and the Alabama Bureau of Investigation to make certain that not only do we catch the human trafficking, but we also work with the DAs when we prosecute or forfeit of assets. As it comes to human rights, the best thing that we can do is lead by example. You're going to hear me say this a lot. It's about results. It's not about rhetoric.
These are your candidates for governor. Give it up for the candidates for the gubernatorial race. Not necessarily political decision. 2018, you decide. Okay, thank you so much. We got some announcements. Housekeeping. Let me be clear with you. I come from a lottery state. I've been in the great state of Alabama for 25 years because my father couldn't get a job in Sumter County. I have no student debt. I have the best buses, the best uniforms, band, cheerleading. I didn't even know what it's like. And I come from a predominantly black high school and school district. The Michigan lottery educated me, really. General Motors with jobs. My dad had a second grade education. But by the grace of God, I came back to Alabama to help y'all out. And this is the people that are going to help you even more. You can do this, Alabama.
Right.
Vote, 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 and vote for the person who's going to work for you. Vote for the person who's going to work for you and your family. We got a couple announcements. Thanks to Mr. Lonnie Malone. Give it up for James Williams. Thank you so much.
Can we do this?
Illustrious mayor who needs his keys.
Yeah. Right before we go,
All of you candidates as
Alabama Democratic Conference is going to be in Lynette, Alabama, March 3rd. Good sale. United Methodist Church. There will be another meet and greet just like this. You guys make sure you get down there, okay? We believe in supporting, so please make sure you get there. Thanks to everyone for coming.
Take care and be safe.
Godspeed.
Mr. Malone, you got something else? Thank you so much. Have a great day. Choose